Okay. Is it live, Sarah?
Yes.
Yes, Stephanie, you're on.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the pre-proposal webinar for RFP 04-2025 for the redevelopment of 306 Yale Boulevard Southeast. My name is Stephanie Shumsky. I'm a project manager with the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency, also referred to as MRA. Jenny Jackson, the Deputy Director of MRA, is also with us today. So we'll be sharing in the discussion responsibilities. Thank you all for joining us to learn more about this redevelopment opportunity. The goal of the webinar is to provide an overview of the RFP and the submittal process. Just a quick reminder of general webinar protocol. Participants will be muted, but if you have a question, please type it into the chat. Questions specifically about the RFP will be documented and we will follow up in writing. The responses will be posted on the RFP website so that all potential applicants have access to the same information. And just a reminder that the deadline for submitting questions has been extended to November 28th. So you have till November 28th to ask us any questions or submit the Exhibit A form, which is attached to the RFP. It's also called the formal RFP inquiry form. If you could please submit that to me, and then we will answer the question formally and put the response on the webpage. The webinar will also be recorded today and will be available via a link on our webpage. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Jackson, our Deputy Director, and she's going to talk more about the RFP specifics and the site details, and then we'll stand for any questions that you might have during this webinar. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thanks for that intro, Stephanie. So as you probably all know, the subject property is a small, approximately half-acre lot located just north of the Smith's grocery store on Yale at 306 Yale Boulevard Southeast. It's zoned MXL, and I recognize that it is a tight lot. I've gotten a couple of calls from people already. We have about the size of the lot and the zoning. Those are what they are. MRA does not have like any special powers to change zoning. So you do have to figure out whether your proposed project will work within the existing zoning and required setbacks and step downs get within the size of the lot. So this area is within the University MRA, and it's guided by the University Metropolitan Redevelopment Plan, which calls for neighborhood scale commercial uses, lower density residential, and or mixed uses in the plan area. We hope that you all are excited about this site, given its proximity to UNM. We think it would be an ideal place for any of these goal uses near the university. It's also in close proximity to transit, obviously shopping. There's a grocery store right next door. It's also in close proximity to another MRA project, the Parador, which is just catty corner across the street. So it'd be really exciting to see another MRA supported project in this block. So the intent of the RFP is to facilitate redevelopment of the property. So the successful applicant will negotiate a development agreement with us. And once all of that is ready to go, we'll transfer the property over to that awarded applicant. So the city's contribution to this project is the land. There's no additional cash gap financing as part of this RFP. We do have other financial incentives, especially the tax abatement, for which this property probably would be a really good candidate for that because it is currently vacant land. So the tax abatement would freeze the taxes at vacant land levels for 7 years. We can also negotiate with the police department about security cameras, getting a mobile police unit placed on the site until the selected developer can bring on their own security crews. So in order to be considered responsive, the proposal must include allowed uses that further the MR plan. So again, look at the zoning, look what's allowable in the area, and look at that MRA plan. The financial threshold in this application is a little bit higher than it has been in past RFPs if it's been a few years since you've applied. So we are asking for past 2 years of financial statements audited if available. So this is just to allow our independent review committee additional information to assess the financial viability of the project and the capacity of the developer. So the RFP will be awarded to a developer with a history of success that demonstrates a reasonable timeline that takes into account an understanding of how the city works, including permitting, building review, all of those things. So when a developer is selected, we will sit down with you and we can talk through, in more detail, all of the other assets at the city that will have to come to the table to do reviews and approvals. But we do want to see a developer that has some past experience and should understand how the city works, at least at a high level. Just so you know, the complete review and approval process typically takes about 6 months. 1 to 2 months for the committee to review, 1 to 2 months for Albuquerque Development Commission approval, and development agreement negotiations. Development agreement negotiations can take more or less time depending on how advanced the project is and how secured the financing is. So that can be, there can be a wide range of time needed for the development agreement negotiations. And then when the development agreement, when it's about ready to go, we have to take that to City Council for approval. It does have to go to committee and then full council. So depending on how quickly we can get on the schedule, it could take 2 to 3 months. MRA staff will notify the proposers by email if a proposal is or is not awarded. If we receive all of the applications and there are questions or like issues that are coming up consistently across a number of proposals, we may follow up and ask for additional information. So there is, typically shortly after the deadline closes, there'll be a period where you may get some questions from us just around clarifications. So yeah, and I wanted to just kind of run through the application sections and then the other required components to this. So we will be expecting a narrative that discusses the alignment with MRA plan, the provision of the project, what's planned, alignment with our community benefit matrix, which is attached to the application materials. And this is a document that may be familiar to some of you because we use it also in our tax abatement. Do not feel like you have to pick up all the points. This is really just a way for us to be able to objectively gauge across a wide variety of projects what aspects the projects are bringing to the table that MRA and the MR plan has deemed to be like beneficial. So there's a minimum threshold. Anything above and beyond that is great, but not required. So please be realistic with your completion of the community benefit matrix, especially because some of the components of that matrix require additional attachments. So also make sure that you're including the required attachments depending on what you select in that matrix. We ask for a description of the development team experience, and you can attach additional information on your experience as well. And then we also have an additional attachment that asks for kind of a summary of your most recently completed projects and then your team qualifications. And we ask for a project schedule. And Stephanie, can you go back for, and a financial plan and financial fitness. In the narrative, you don't need to go into like huge amount of depth on things like your financial fitness because you will be attaching your financial documents. But we do want, a description of what the plan is for this project. And then your experience with this work and your like financial like fitness to like carry this project to completion in a timely manner. Additional attachments include the proposal information sheet. That's really just like a cover sheet, site plans and renderings. Obviously, like this is coming out now. You don't have a really long time before the deadline. We got some holidays in the middle, so they can be pretty high level at this point. And then as the development agreement negotiations progress, we will expect a like refinement of the initial proposal. On those site plans and renderings, it's really helpful to include measurements so we can check that the setbacks and the step downs and parking all actually will fit on the site. It's helpful for the review committee to be able to see that stuff in the plan submitted. Financial summary is an Excel document that's included in the RFP package. Please complete that in its entirety. We do ask for a letter of support from a financial institution that has financed projects in the past. And if you're proposing like a retail use for this site, if possible, we would like a letter of basically commitment from the proposed operator or tenant confirming that they intend to operate out of that site and that they have the ability to do so. As I mentioned before, 2 years of audited financial statements, if available, otherwise equivalent financial documents, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow analysis are required. Then the community benefit matrix. So in the narrative, you'll describe that a little bit, and then you'll attach the actual matrix so we can verify all of the points. Letter of acknowledgement is a form, and then a modified W-9 form is also an attached form in the RFP package. This is just a special form that the city uses. You can include, but are not required, additional letters of support, additional evidence of success in past projects. That might be news clippings, your organization's annual report, things like that. Stephanie, I think you can go ahead one more page. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, so then a little bit more on the process. So the RFP is open right now. If you have any questions, please use the formal inquiry form that's included in the RFP. This is to make sure that we formally receive all of your questions, and then we will publish a reply so that all interested applicants will see, like, have the same information. So if you try to call Stephanie or me or email Stephanie or me, we will encourage you to fill out that form, and so that everybody is working with the same information, and that will all get posted on the webpage where the RFP is located. And then once the deadline closes, I mentioned we will have an independent review committee score all of these. They will take those recommendations back to MRA, and then we will write up a report on their findings and take that to the Albuquerque Development Commission. And then the ADC makes a recommendation to take this to council or to proceed with the development agreement and then eventually take that to council. And then we work on the development agreement. Stephanie would be your main point person on that. And then once that's about ready to sign and everything's like good to go, then that agreement goes to council, basically just to keep them informed of what we're doing, and to, allow them to, accept that this development's going forward. I think that's about all I have. Stephanie, did I miss anything? And if you have questions now, I see we have one. Okay, you can put them in the Q&A, and these questions that you pop in the Q&A now, we will provide a formal written answer to after this meeting. So keep an eye out for those probably sometime next week. So Keaton says, will MRA provide boundary or Alta survey of the property? So we will, I will ask Real Property if a survey exists. We don't have one, but I recognize that every foot is important when you're talking about such a small site. So we'll look around for that, and hopefully something is available. Okay, will live work units qualify for community scale commercial category points under the community benefit matrix? Stephanie, do you want to answer that one? Would live work units qualify for community scale commercial? Probably. We would probably want like a description in the narrative though, but Stephanie, do you have thoughts on that?
My only thought would be, the plan calls for like neighborhood scale, primarily more like a commercial or retail. So if that's the purpose of the live work area, if it's like a home office where you're not really providing those retail or community services to the neighborhood, maybe not so much, but I think we'd have to take a look at it. I guess it would depend on what type of live work use is happening there. That's a good question though.
The next question is this the Lots Reimagined program? No, this is separate. Lots Reimagined is a program that the city has launched to activate empty lots that will eventually be redeveloped, to, in the interim, allow for activity on them. So this is an RFP to solicit development for this city-owned lot, which up until the construction breaks ground would be eligible for Lots Reimagined, but that would just be for temporary activations that don't change the site in any way. Any other questions? And of course, if you think of questions after the fact, feel free to submit them via the inquiry form. All right, I think that's it, Stephanie.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining us. And if you do have questions, just let us know.
We're excited to see what's submitted. We're looking forward to reviewing these applications. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Bye.